let's go ahead and jump into the topic of today, which is really all about, how do we develop engaging social media content that's going to stop the scroll, get our audience to pay attention to what we have to say, ultimately generate more leads and new clients for us, because that's what we're all looking for. Ryan's got a great presentation he's going to share with us about that. But if you're following along on the agenda, I did want to lay a couple of foundational elements for us to kind of set the stage. And so if you guys will just scroll down, you're going to see an infographic. If you've been following us along or been to our Demand Gen Jam sessions this year, this is going to look familiar to you because we actually walked through this infographic as part of our content marketing strategy, Demand Gen Jam sessions back in February and March. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it today. If you're interested, go back and re-listen to February and March of this year. But what I wanted you to see on this infographic is, when it comes to B2B digital marketing and specifically content marketing, it always starts with understanding who our audience is and the messages that are going to resonate to them. But then from there, developing content pillars. And we recommend 3 to 5 content pillars to help you stay on message. Marketing is an exercise in memorization. So we want our audience to remember the problems that we can solve for them. And from there, we want to build out long form content, and that content lives on our website. Now, one of the challenges that B2Bs face is they think that they're done, right? They build this long form foundational content. It's on their website. Phew, I'm done. Maybe I'll do some posts on LinkedIn on my company page, try to drive some traffic over to my website that way. But that's really not what works today. And so what we're going to focus today's presentation on is really what you see there in the center, which is that atomized pillar there on that infographic, where once we figured out who our audience is and our content pillars, what we need to do is take the key concepts that are within the long form content that we're creating and reformat those in a format that works in the channels that we're trying to educate and find our audience, but also do it in a way that's going to get them to stop and pay attention. And so none of that changes. What you're going to hear today is really, how do we craft a LinkedIn post that's going to take that information that we spent a lot of time trying to figure out and put it onto LinkedIn in a way that's really going to get the attention of our buyers. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Really excited about that. And, Ryan, before we get into the presentation, I just thought it would be fun for us to rip on a couple of topics. And the first one is, why do you think this LinkedIn, you kind of touched on it in your introduction, but why is LinkedIn and social media content critical for B2B today?
Yeah, it's just because of the state of LinkedIn. So unlike Twitter, or I guess we can call it X now, where it's the Wild West and it comes to social media, it's kind of a catch-all. LinkedIn has this professional backdrop to it. Everyone knows that their professional reputation is on the line. So their interactions are more meaningful, from everything that they post to the direct messages to what they're saying on a public profile. So it's an exciting time there. And because it's still relatively new in terms of content creation, it's starting to become this place where you can really build a business, whether you're a solopreneur or a large enterprise. And I'll show you exactly what I mean once we get into the presentation. But it's a great time to be creating content there and building a brand presence.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things that I see B2B companies struggle with is they do think of, LinkedIn like a channel, hey, I'm going to go and promote some content there and expect to get traffic back to my website and ultimately convert that. And the reality is it's a platform, it's a social platform. And so the challenge that we have as businesses is that, at the end of the day, people do business with people, not brands. And so we've got to get out there and basically engage them in a way that's going to be useful and valuable to them. One thing that Ryan and Andrea and I were talking about right before we jumped on today is, just think about the way that you use LinkedIn. We're all, on LinkedIn primarily to connect with our peers, but also to stay up to date on in our industry and to passively learn, right? When we're not buying right now, when we're not in buying mode, we're in passive learning mode, and all of our customers and buyers are in passive learning mode. And so it's critical that we're, tapping into that and giving them information that's going to help them remember, oh, this is the company that can help me do that. But we've got to do it in a way that's really useful and beneficial to them, so that they do remember us when they go into market. And that's really critical, because, today's buyers don't feel like they have to come to our website to get the information. They're expecting us to go where they are spending time. And certainly LinkedIn is where they're spending time today. I want to jump down to the next topic, Ryan, and that's this idea of employee advocacy. People talk about that a lot today, and I don't know that a lot of B2B companies really understand how to do it the right way or why it's important. But man, I'm telling you, most companies that I talk to feel like social media, B2B social, is about posting content on their LinkedIn company page. And I can tell you that based on the data that I've seen, the engagement that you get on a post you put out on your company page versus the engagement your founder or subject matter expert or employees are going to see is night and day difference. Isn't that right, Ryan?
It absolutely is. It's called employee advocacy programs because the implication is employees advocating for the brand. It needs to flip. It needs to be employer advocacy and employers advocating for their employees. And that's a better way to get buy-in to achieve the same effect. You want your employees to support your brand, then enable them to build their own brand and attach your corporate initiatives for your brand to their content. And please don't make it a points program. No one cares about points programs because they've never been meaningful. It's just like no one wants to be called by a telemarketer when they're sitting down with their family or see a door-to-door salesman. We all have that stigma connected to those sales folks. And it's the same thing with point reward systems. If you want people to post on LinkedIn to drive initiatives to your brand, then connect a revenue share component to it. Treat them almost like a sales company, develop a compensation plan, and have the employer now helping you build a brand that you can leverage for more sales and to build any corporate initiative that could be attached to that company brand. That's the real direction I think we're heading. And those that get that figured out, I think we're going to start acing it, especially when it comes to revenue attribution per employee, right? That could be an interesting stat that could change from all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things that you made me think about there, Ryan, is, number one, when I think about employees versus a company page on LinkedIn, we have tens or hundreds of employees and we only have one company page, right? So if I can create an army of, thought leaders / influencers that are out there talking about my business on a regular basis, just think about just the exponential benefit that could have to your business. But then going back to content marketing 101, why we've got to have content pillars and why we've got to do education. We don't want them necessarily out there doing the Wild West. Certainly, as you said, Ryan, we want to give them lots of latitude because it is their social presence. But at the same time, we want to educate them and give them tools and resources that are going to help them be successful. And some of the stuff you're going to talk about today, even on just how to craft a post that's going to get somebody's attention, is really key to that. And it goes back to the fact that people buy from people, right? If Ryan sources something on LinkedIn, I'm going to probably pay more attention to that than if he posts something on his company page. And that's just the nature of social media today. And it all starts, in my opinion, with the founder. I'm the founder of Vendy Digital, and I'm very active in LinkedIn, as I'm sure most of you guys know. And the last time I did an analysis, 40% of our net new customers, like logos that weren't, people that move from one company to the next or a referral, 40% of our new clients literally came from LinkedIn. People that reached out to me, direct message, and said, "Hey, Paul, I've been following you for a while. I'm ready to talk about how you can help our business." And so that only happens when you've got your people involved in social media and doing it the right way. And just moving on to the next topic here, which is getting ready for Ryan's presentation. Ryan's got some really awesome resources. If you're not following him on LinkedIn, and I had a link to his LinkedIn profile up at the beginning of the agenda, please go there right now and follow him because his content is absolutely amazing. You'll learn a ton from him, just like I have. He had, I think, was it yesterday or the day before, Ryan, that you had a post about how to take one idea or one topic and turn that into 5 posts. And I've actually got a link to the post there. We're not going to click on it, but you guys have that for reference. But that's just a great example of what you can do when you think about this strategically, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can take one idea and just spread it across the world in various formats, from a text post that gets converted to a carousel, to a video, even to a podcast episode. So I'll show you in the presentation how I've done that. And the reason why you'd want to do that is because if it's driving leads and or any type of KPI, like a qualified sales meeting, you want to just keep using it in different mediums so it continues to yield the same results. So it's exciting to think about. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really love about your approach, because, when we talk about content pillars, one thing that I hear from my clients all the time is, man, you're saying right within these 3 to 5 content pillars, how in the world am I going to sustain that and make it interesting and relevant? Well, using some of your techniques, it's very easy to do, because you can take these concepts underneath the pillars and then repurpose them in all these different ways, which is great. The next thing down on the agenda there is a cheat sheet. And I know you're going to talk about that a little bit in the presentation, but I wanted people to have access to the cheat sheet and the actual LinkedIn post where you highlighted that, I think, a few days ago. But man, that'll help you really think about all the different ways to create hooks and really relevant content. So be sure to check that out too. And then Ryan, tell me about this content platform that you've got launching on Friday. You gave me a sneak peek yesterday. I was pretty excited about it.
Yeah, it's really a one-page Notion document that has a ton of carousel templates, hook templates, written post templates, both to attract leads or just to attract engagement. It's got an editing bay, a content scheduler. It's designed to really be a content dashboard for you so you can speed up your content creation process. I think many of us here, including myself, often say, well, what would I even post anyway? And I don't have enough time to think about this. It's designed to really make the content creation process easy so you can build a brand faster and then begin leveraging that brand to scale whatever online business or online marketing initiative you have. So I'll cover that a little bit more in detail and show you more of the tangibles there.
Awesome. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into your presentation. I'm super excited for everybody to see this. And if you'll share your screen, Ryan, I'm going to pin you to the top and
awesome.
Here we go.
Can you guys see the screen okay?
I can.
Awesome. Okay. This is my ultimate kind of presentation on making sure that anytime you embark on the great journey that's LinkedIn, your content just doesn't suck. And so I'll show some examples of content that you don't want to have on your profile, but we're really going to go through this whole type of system. Now, many people, when they start, get to LinkedIn and they say this, LinkedIn content is for job updates and career announcements, or anytime I have something relative to the role that I'm in. And many of us used to believe that. It's started to change more and more, but it's a commonly held belief. So my job throughout this presentation is going to be to prove that way wrong. Often this now, what used to be the majority of content will now become the minority of content. I've been building content businesses for 15 years, graduated from Arizona State University with a degree in communication back in 2007, moved to LA from Arizona. So hello to all of my Arizona folks out there. And joined my first startup. And this startup was trying to take YouTubers who were creating gaming content and create the MTV of video games, but on YouTube. And so we were just recruiting all of these content creators and trying to sell mass media against them. From there, I went to Google and worked on the YouTube gaming team, managing large enterprise content businesses, helped lead the first exit in 2017, led the second exit in 2019. And in 2022, I formed Parade. And Parade is my content agency. I chose a name because just like a parade, there's a start and there's a finish. And everything in between that is dancers, music, large blow up floating objects. It's the same thing with your content. You've got written posts, audio posts, video and carousels. And so you're just kind of creating your own content parade to get to the end result where your customers are. Said another way, I'm just a content strategist who builds LinkedIn content marketing engines. My goal is to take you from a few coworkers liking your posts to an audience or an engaged community liking your post, and then ultimately to you monetizing that content on LinkedIn. It's going well so far. In May, I was ranked as the 37th most engaged LinkedIn creator by a French company known as Favicon. It's nice to be able to beat Simon Sinek at something, even if it was just for a little while. These ranks change all the time, but they have an algorithm that kind of just tests what your LinkedIn engagement is, from the posting to the content within a specific category. So it was great to see that come up. I was grateful for that, very excited. I'm doing a lot of ghostwriting and content strategy, just seeing great reviews pour in from people that I'm helping. I had a recent client who's a leadership coach, career coach, get about 6 leads in 48 hours just from one post. In fact, it's kind of a funny story. We posted one post and then the social media scheduler posted it again the next day. She sent me a message saying, hey, that post posted twice, but I shouldn't have deleted it, because even though I posted the same exact piece of content, I got a few more leads from it as well. So it just demonstrates the power of a well-articulated message, which we'll touch on here in a second. Now, when you think about LinkedIn and the backdrop, here's where it's at today. This is according to a 2023 study. A lot of this data is pulled directly from LinkedIn. 900 million LinkedIn users, with 3 new users joining every single second. The US is still the largest in terms of region, 199 million users, with India close behind at 101 million. This is starting to get to where some of my favorite data lies, though. 65 million decision makers, business decision makers, exist on the platform, and 4 out of 5 people are decision drivers. Now, it's separate from the top. Those decision drivers may not hold the budget, but they influence those 65 million who do. And 40% of B2B marketers, and this is a recent poll, said that LinkedIn is just the most powerful channel for generating those high quality leads. And it goes back to what I was saying before we got into the presentation. There's a professional backdrop here. Whereas on Twitter, you could argue that in some cases people want to have that professional backdrop, but I think it's more of just kind of the Wild West. Whereas, on LinkedIn, because of its roots as just being a job and career platform, it has that more professional undertone with it, which makes a great foundation for selling a product or a service. This is my favorite stat out of all the stats I just showed you, even though it's the smallest. 9 million people enabled creator mode since 2021. And the reason why that's important is because it's saying that LinkedIn values content, from video to audio to text to image, you name it. LinkedIn loves content, and they were late to the game, right? Because it was that career platform. You had the YouTubes of the world, the TikToks of the world, and all these other businesses of the world really claiming UGC flags. Well, now LinkedIn is in the game. They've developed their own creator partner manager program to help people who are creating content on LinkedIn, whether you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company or you're someone who's running an agency like Paul or myself. And it's impacting everyone in a very positive way. You have individuals who are running small solopreneur businesses on the left that are starting to see really high bookings just from LinkedIn content. On the right, you've got Cisco, 84,000 employees, saying that they want to turn those employees into LinkedIn influencers. And that would be the model of employer advocacy versus employee advocacy. Employers advocating for their employees to be LinkedIn influencers, to drive content, to drive message, and ultimately produce great results for corporate initiatives. So let me ask you this then. Why am I in this presentation today? There is one answer, and it's not ads. It's not cold outreach. It's not sponsored posts. I didn't put Paul in a headlock and say, I need to be on, your next presentation. I want to take over your community. The answer is content. I don't buy ads. I haven't spent $1 on them. I don't do cold outreach, and I don't do sponsored posts. I believe all 3 of them have a place. I'm not condemning them. They just aren't a part of my process, and I don't need them to be, because the content is doing it for me. And if you do it right as well, content can have a massive, meaningful impact. Even if you're doing ads and cold outreach and sponsored posts, still do content, it'll make everything else far more influential, right? There's symbiotic relationship that exists there.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan, just to jump in there, one thing we say all the time at Vindy is if it's good enough for organic, it's good enough for paid. And that ties right back into what you're saying. If we're creating really good content, take that content and boost it to our target audience through paid ads or boosting content or thought leadership ads. It works fantastic. And organic is the way to get it out there and to see what resonates and take the cream of the crop and basically boost that content to the rest of your audience. It works fantastic.
Yeah, or turn it into an ad. There you go. Boom. So the main four objectives today are talking about your LinkedIn offer system, not your LinkedIn profile. It's no longer your LinkedIn profile unless you're just not going to use LinkedIn as a content medium. Your content engine and the catchy hooks, right? The beginning of your post all the way to the end of your post. So feel free at any time to interact as you see fit, ask questions. Andrea and Paul, maybe you guys can moderate here and serve it up. Feel free to interrupt me, type in the chat, and just have a good time with us. Okay. LinkedIn is about your offer system, not your LinkedIn profile. And I specifically put a big red line through that because there are 5 major components of your LinkedIn profile: the banner, the link below your avatar, the services that you can list, your featured section, and your about me. Today, we're just going to talk about the big 3. And the reason we're talking about these big 3 is because 1 and 2, your banner and your featured section, provides you the biggest digital real estate on your profile in terms of imagery. So you want them to be connected and you want them to push towards your product, your service, or whatever it is that you're trying to win with on LinkedIn. Here's an example. If you were to come to my page right now and you saw nothing else, you would at least see a powerful stat and testimonial from someone I worked with, and you would know that I'm a ghostwriter. In fact, you probably wouldn't need to see anything else to be curious more about what I'm doing. This would be enough to stoke your curiosity if it was relevant to you. But if you did click down and start looking at something, you'd also see that my featured section, the second largest image real estate, is relative to the first largest piece of real estate. So if I'm telling you that ghostwriting is important, it can drive leads in a fast amount of time, you can message me to learn how. You can either message me right away, or it connects you to a more relevant piece of information, something that resonates with my target audience. Many people that I speak with as a content strategist say this very thing. What do I post? I had a client who loved to go fishing, and he would go fishing every Saturday, but he didn't want to worry about what to post on Monday. So one of the reasons why he hired me was because he would go fishing, but have anxiety about what he needed to post for his business on Monday. And so this here helps sell that message. And ideally, once these two are connected, then you go deep into your about me. And your about me is written with a very specific copywriting formula that speaks to a target audience about their problems, makes the pain, kind of twisted in there, but speaks about your solution, a better future, an incentivized call to action. It has social proof and testimonials. So in this presentation, I'll show you, I actually have a formula for you, and it's a good leave behind. You'll be able to take that and begin replicating it for yourself, especially if you're going to be creating content. I won't read through it, but I will just highlight some of the sections here. So the first statement is always going to be relative to your target audience and the problem that they're experiencing, like the big twisting pain type problem. We make it a little bit worse, right? Not in a unethical way, but what that really means is you just dive deeper into the pain that they're experiencing, right? So if you need content to scale a service or sell a product, then you need to be influential. People need to see you as an authority. This is especially true if you're a coach, right? There has to be some backdrop, and we take the backdrop from your career and we build it into this, right?
Yeah. Hey, Ryan, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in here. That's, we call that agitating the pain, which once you get in there, we want to agitate the pain. The other thing is, for those of you that are listening in, this information that Ryan's sharing right now, huge, huge, huge for your sales team. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you want every one of your sales reps to have on their LinkedIn. What you didn't call it a profile page. What'd you call it? An offer page, Ryan?
Offer system.
Yeah, your offer system. Every one of your sales reps need to have this kind of format going on their LinkedIn page, even if they're not sharing content, which obviously we want them to be doing that. That's why we're having this presentation today. But having this kind of information on their profile page is going to be night and day difference from what I'm seeing in a typical sales reps page, which basically looks like they're trying to find their next job, not trying to help, you or them sell more stuff.
Yeah. So when you get that target audience problem list, the next step then is to really, really agitate that, right? You can't forsake LinkedIn content as a business development resource. It's just a regrettable decision. You can type in how their competitors are leveraging it, right? I twist that knife just a little bit more in there. And then once that's ready, you present your solution. After you present your solution, you present the social proof of your solution. So you're just stacking now your credibility. And after you provide that social proof, you talk about what their new future looks like. So you see it's even connected there from the twisting of the problem to your solution, what that social proof does to justify your solution all the way to a new future. So read through this when you get a chance. I think you'll find it insightful, and it'll be a nice framework for you to develop and update your profile. I like to include an incentivized CTA. Most people don't have to do something along those lines, but get your profile reviewed at no cost. And by the way, for us as marketers, I had a friend, and I don't have the data on this, but she's a B2B marketer, and she said she's done some tests with using the word free versus the phrase at no cost, and she found higher click-through rates when it was at no cost. Her justification was that free kind of seems cheap, whereas at no cost, even though it valuable signifies cheap, there's like a premium value behind it. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's great.
Yeah. So just a recap, you really want your banner, the first thing that they see when they land on your profile, you want it to be very simple copy, good social proof, call to action. And then you make it relevant to the rest of the presentation on the featured section. And then you point them to a deeper learning experience about who you are, who you help, what you do, who you solve it for. Now, once you have your offer system, the common theme is, okay, well, I can just start posting that. I can throw whatever I want out there because this guy, Ryan, on a webinar said LinkedIn is in this golden age of posting content. Well, I would say not exactly. If you've optimized your offer system to speak to a target audience, then your content should have one crystal clear message for your target audience, and it should speak to their problem or desire. Now, we as marketers all know there's problems, fears, needs, desires, right? We can get really rigid in just over defining what those are. Not digging that, but what is one major problem that keeps them up at night? And what is one major desire that they want to achieve with that? And so as you're going through your content, don't overthink it, simplify it. And when you're ready to post, you can actually say more with a lot less. And here's what I mean by that. Formatting is king on LinkedIn, not just editing. In fact, not editing, formatting. And we're going to dive into a bunch of examples here. Picture John Doe on the left. This is his post on a mobile device. And these little lines here are his content. This is an intimidating wall of text. You probably would see this and either skip it or run for the hills. But Jane has taken the time to format her post in kind of like this funnel format, right? She's got one longer line and it gets shorter and shorter as she goes. Now, she's not doing this just for the sake of formatting it that way, but she's making it easy for someone to come in and scan her content, knowing full well that people have access to tons of social media content on LinkedIn and off LinkedIn. Here's an example of what that actually looks like with a really long post. So as a content strategist, I teach content creators how to build their businesses. So this post here, how I create 45 post ideas with 3 words, and in parentheses, I put great for beginners. Notice that it starts with a long sentence. They get shorter and shorter. If the longer sentence resets, it just continues to go down the page. So you're reading in this funnel format, so you can now not feel super intimidated when you read a large post like this. Now, this was a really long post. I'll show you some shorter posts in a second here of where you can do that. But let's just keep going down this rabbit hole. Now, John Doe is not doing one long wall of text. He's broken it into paragraphs and maybe shortened the last line. Okay, still intimidating. Still feels overbearing. Most readers will likely skip that content or they'll click on see more and just think, this isn't for me. It's too long. I don't have time. You want people to be able to read this in between meetings so it comes up in meetings, right? Especially when you're marketing to individuals who are trying to buy a product or a service and they need to get other people's buy-in. So Jane takes the time, one longer line, bullet points, one longer line, bullet points, one longer line, bullet points. Here's 2 real examples. And you'll notice that these posts are actually the same. So I've got the line here. I've been teaching people how to write some calls to action. This says it was a month ago, but this is really about 6 months old here. So I start with one simple line. Don't write like this. And I show the examples. And then I say, write like this. And I show more examples. But this example, sign up for my newsletter, is connected to this here. I'm just showing you the wrong way to do something and the right way to do something. By the way, I've written hundreds of posts. One of the most influential things that I've found in terms of building an engaged audience is to show the bad of something and the good of something. People are more attracted to what they could lose than they are attracted to what they want to gain. That's why we always pressure into those problems, or we play on that fear in a very ethical way that drives attention, but also helps them and equips them so they can immediately take action. But when you say don't write like this and then never write job ads like this, that sounds really familiar, right? And so I'll touch on this in a second. This is just one post idea repurposed once again for another post. And I just go through the same format. It's got a nice headline that draws you in, shows you examples, another headline, shows you examples, and then down below is just a nice capstone to the actual post. More on that in a second. Other formatting methods can look like this. John, he's struggling, doesn't want to do any more paragraphs, but now he's got this rigid mountainous range. You know, you look at this and it's just, okay, it's kind of long. It's like hard to follow your eyes down the page. Whereas Jane has taken the time to do this reverse cascade where the sentence starts shorter and gets longer as you go. It's just a little bit easier on the eyes when someone is going through and scanning that content. One more here, doesn't always have to be in one specific format. You can have this nice curve just going right down the page. Again, it matters more about how you format and less about how you edit. Don't worry about typos and spelling errors. I'm not saying, include them on purpose or anything, but be mindful of them, but be more mindful about the scanner, because scanners are only going to read and take action from your content if they like what they scan. So people often look at a post, their eyes dart around the screen a little bit. They choose, I've heard people say like there's 8 seconds in an attention span. I think there's half a second, right? So when you're writing content, you want to get them immediately. And the second you get them in with good content.
And Ryan, isn't that the first job of all of our content is to stop the scroll. And if that scroll looks like John Doe over there, they're not stopping. They're just, they're going to go through until they find something that catches their attention. Totally. And so this formatting is what's going to stop the scroll. And I will tell you, the 2 biggest lessons I've learned from you as I've been following you closely for almost a year now is the formatting, because I was definitely John Doe, dude. I mean, I was writing novels in my LinkedIn posts and they look like novels. And everybody that's here from Vindy knows exactly what I'm talking about. They're probably chuckling, but then I started following your stuff and I started breaking it up and formatting it. That was a big, big difference maker for me. And then the other one is what you've also talked about, which is the showing the negative and then showing the positive. Don't do this, do this. That's a lot of my content was all about do these things. But then I was able to take some of my older content after learning from you and that had advice and you reformat it so it was lined up to stop the scroll as we've been talking about. But then I would add the negative to it. It was like, so what is the negative to this advice I'm giving? And that really made a big difference.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I do that is, and maybe many of us can relate here, is, everyone talks about funnels online. But often if you ever go and look at like someone who's a gym coach or an online fitness coach, they'll put you through this funnel where they make you watch a 30-minute video or so, and they'll tell you they're going to share the 3 most important things you need to do. But they just take you all the way down through this funnel and you can't even remember what those 3 things are. It feels really cloudy and it's a tactic to get you to buy, at least go to the next step. And so people are so used to seeing content like that, where if you shorten it, show the bad, show the good, make it digestible within 30 seconds or less, it just allows you to have these little snackable pieces of content that people eat until they get to your service, your full course meal. So think about your content short form like that. If you are going to do long form content, you can still do the paragraph type stuff for your articles, your blog posts. I would reconsider it for newsletters and making them shorter and sweeter like that. But the snackable content, in the same way we all used to watch longer form YouTube videos, now TikTok has taken over. Think of your content, your written content, the same way. Okay. Many people ask, and I touched on this in the beginning, is like, what do I do to post content? And this is what Paul was talking about in the interlude before we got to the presentation. So this is that post of taking one idea and using different content templates or formats to continue one consistent theme for one audience relative to one problem that they solve. So here's an example. Pretend you're a career coach, right? You could write a positive frame post, 5 ways to grow your career. You could write the negative version of that, 5 ways your career can suffer, 5 ways your career fails. You can write a how you statement, how you can impress your CEO, right? It's relative to your career. You can write a how I statement. If you're an online coach, how I coach stuck professionals, right? You get them, maybe they want to go from being a director to a VP. So you talk about your service. You can write a personal story. I once helped a busy executive. The idea here is to take one idea and spread it into multiple post formats. So that way you can sit down one day and say, okay, I need to just create all of my content in like a 2-hour time frame. So I have the rest of the week. Oh, you don't have to you have this cognitive load every day of sitting down. I've got to get into this really creative mode. It's actually much easier to create content than we think. We just overdo it because we think we have to over-explain and jump into all these different formats that we really don't understand. We're just trying to follow the parade in a sense. So if you're a marketer, 5 ways to launch your social media campaign, 5 ways to launch your new brand strategy, right? 5 ways your brand strategy fails, right? How you can impress your CMO, right? Maybe now you're speaking to digital marketers. How I coach stuck digital specialists, right? Maybe they want to move into a senior manager role, right? And, I once helped a busy CMO launch a brand campaign, or I once helped a startup agency launch their content strategy. You can keep all of that relevant to whatever topic you want to speak to. It really comes down to who you're speaking to and how you deliver it. And that's really the point here. That one crystal clear message for one target audience to solve one problem or desire, or you can mention both. That's what really matters. So you can take the short form content and you can transform it into more longer form content, like a carousel on LinkedIn. Now, this would be your deep style content. I'm going to show you a key example here. This carousel that I'm showing you here is something that I've used many times. So I'll explain that at the end of this, because I really want you just to capture how we build a content as a service type program. So imagine you're a CEO of a company. Only 20% of your staff generates revenue. You know your customers are on LinkedIn, but your cold messages are not impactful. You need sales and relationships. So you hire a content strategist. You should hire a CAS strategist. CAS is content as a service. This content as a service strategist does 3 things for you: writes employee content, trains your staff how to engage on LinkedIn, then scales the program company-wide. And as the strategist is creating this content, they're doing it to attract your target customer. It leads to these results. This is where you'd add your social proof, right? These are actual leads from my DMs. Let's chat. Need LinkedIn help. And these are just 2 examples, right? I mean, we get lots of leads from this. Hi, Ryan. Might we schedule an introductory chat? I'd like to learn more about how you can help support what I'm up to. And this, right? All these invitations here. I've got about 2,000. When I created this, it's up at 4,000. I'll never get through it. You get people to come to you. That's my point. Okay. And this, you get a lot of engagement on your posts. Don't listen to anyone who tells you that likes don't matter. No, they don't directly pay your bills, but they create a halo effect around your brand, your voice, your authority, your trust. They get people to at least look and get more curious about what it is that you're doing right, which means more exposure from your target audience to your service. And then the ultimate outcome, right? The kind of climax of this, they go from no engagement to prestigious engagement to monetized engagement. And then even better, it's all done for you. So your staff can continue to send messages, right? I used to work with a lot of recruiters and they're in heavy outbound mode on LinkedIn. So one of the ways I targeted them was to just outline that they can keep doing that. I'm just going to supply them with content. So it makes what they're doing even more valuable, even more influential, because they have this engaged brand. And then you start to outline more about your product and service. This is really just drawing into that about section where you're setting KPIs, right? You're not just fly by night. This is measurable. This is objective. You've got customer connections as a KPI. It could be engagement growth, impressions, qualified leads. And now you start to show that better future. Within months, your revenue attributed staff could increase from 20% to 40%. Again, you're just painting a scenario. It could increase from 20% to 60%. Maybe it even goes as high as 80%. You're painting that ideal future for them. Now you have this narrative that reads you've converted X% of staff into revenue attributors, right? You've made your workforce better with your brand, better with your service, and you've started to increase your monetization. Last 3 slides here. You kind of reinforce that it's serious decision making, could mean serious dollars. And then you outline who your product or your service is, right? It's kind of your final call to action. I build these content programs by replicating my strategy for executives and marketers, recruiters, sales teams, and so on. The reason why I'm going through this deck really fast, this carousel, is because this originally started as a text post. I then repurposed it into a carousel. I've used it as a podcast episode. I've used it for a video, and it's driven well over 20 qualified leads from the people that I'm trying to attract. So you can take this content and do the same exact thing for your audience, just changing up the language, changing up the calls to action, and so on. Content really is currency, and it is a great way to communicate with the people who are trying to reach. That's especially true.
Great storytelling
content.
You know what I mean? I mean, that was you gave us a great example of how to tell a business story using a carousel. And like you said, Ryan, that was a LinkedIn post. It could also be, you're sharing it even here on a webinar, right? So there's a lot of ways that great information can be shared. And there's so much psychology in what you just walked us through. And by the way, carousels do great on LinkedIn right now.
They definitely do. Yeah. I definitely do. The other type of content that does great on LinkedIn is this lead attracting content. There's a couple of themes here, namely 2 that you'll see. Each post starts with a how, but not a to follow, right? So people have to think how to do something. You can Google how-tos or use ChatGPT for how-tos, but people want to see more engaged experiential content of you doing something. So how I grew my clients' reach 3,000% in only 30 days. And what's the trick behind that? She wasn't posting anything. So we started posting for her. She had some posts do exceptionally well. Some posts I did average. But this jump is massive. So it put her on the map for a brand. Then we launch a webinar down the road because she's got an audience to point them to, right? Look at this. How I got my AI client, guy who works in AI, 3 leads in our first week. One of those leads is from a software engineer at NASA. So it's pretty powerful. And he's a young professional, hasn't been through a lot of what many of us here have been through. He's never worked as an executive before. He just knows AI, right? So we connect that to the process. How you is another way to do it. How you can pick your niche. Okay. That's a problem for people, right? Or a desire for people. People want to know who they speak to. So there's your desire. And stop overthinking. That's a big problem for people. So desire on the left, problem on the right. Then we take them through a simple 5-step guide. This is actually my best post of the year right now. And it's all because of the educational component that allows and equips someone to take immediate action. So if the content is good, then they'll click on your post, right? So long as it's good, no matter what. It can be just like John Doe is putting in there, great content, they'll click on the post. Well, not exactly, because good content starts with the hook, your first line. And I think many of you in marketing know this quite well. So my question for you here is, which one is the better hook? Hook number 1 on the left, and I have 3 questions. We're going to go through this. Feel free to just throw it in the chat. Hook number 1, it's important to create LinkedIn content. Hook number 2, 5 ways you can create lead attracting content on LinkedIn. Okay, a lot of people saying number 2, you're 100% right. Numbers register in the mind, right? That's called a listicle. Using the word you and your are 2 of the most powerful words in marketing. I think we all know that. They're especially true in short form content. It's not just any content, it's lead attracting content. Let's do another one. Which hook is better? Bad engagement, 5 easy solutions. Bad engagement, 5 incredible solutions. 1 or 2. Okay, got a ones. Yes, number 1 is it, simply because we chose in parentheses for online coaches, right? You saw me do that a little bit ago when I was telling people how to find their niche. And then in parentheses, I put stop overthinking. That's a psychological hook, by the way. For some reason, that format tends to perform really well in cases where it's just one straight line. It's almost like you're just extra targeting when you do that. I've seen that method work. Okay, this one is a bit trickier. Final one here. 7 powerful ways to fix 3 bad hooks and build the number 1 content strategy on LinkedIn, or 7 bad hooks to avoid but rewritten for use. 1 or 2.
That is a harder one.
Yeah, it's a harder one. Oh, multiple ones. Okay. All right. Number two. Number two. And the reason why goes back to what I was saying previously. 7 bad hooks to avoid. Talk about the bad, but rewritten for use. Show them the good. The reason why I don't like this one here is because it bleeds into 2 lines on LinkedIn when you're on a mobile device, and we're in a mobile friendly world. Right. Charmin's right. Number 1 was too long, right? So you want that to be on 1 line. 7 bad hooks to avoid. You're telling someone, or warning someone of something, and then you're showing this. And I'll show you this post here in a second. When you're writing hooks, use numbers. Use the number 5. Don't write 5. People see this number and it easily registers into the mind. Like they know they're about to see a countdown. Target the problems and desires, which we talked about, and keep it simple. This one is not simple. This one is simple. So let's look at a real example from that tricky one. 7 bad hooks to avoid, but rewritten for use. This is officially now my 2nd most popular post of the year. I did it back in January. 164,000 impressions, over 1,000 engagements, right? I saw a lot of leads in that month there, 66 reposts. That's a lot of brand reach. Okay. So what I did is just jumped right into it. I didn't have to worry about a long intro or qualifying anything. I literally said, these are 7 bad hooks. Here's the first one. It's a manipulator. Why is it a manipulator? Because people start writing the first line of content, then they hit enter 5 million times to create all of this white space just so someone clicks on see more. Okay. Good content gets to the point and good copy attracts. White space does not attract. There's nothing to see here. So 3 ways to improve your hooks. The psychological trick, they instantly see number 1 and they're reading the post before they're even registered that they're reading the post. This will get people to click on see more, just like it did with this post here. And so that's kind of the psychological method you want to use when you're showing the bad and then you're showing the good. You're warning of the bad, you're teaching the good. So number 2, the false advertiser, instead do this, right? No one wants to be seen as a false advertiser who says you can get 5,000 followers in 7 days. But if they read your content and they say you can get 5,000 followers in 6 months, okay, you're being more realistic. You're not tapping into any type of fear in a way that is unethical or unrealistic. Same thing. No one wants to be a confuser, right? So this really long hook where you're using all of these multiple numbers, 5 ways to write 7 hooks for your niche and 4 ways to do it wrong, really confusing. Just turn this into 3 separate posts. 5 ways to write hooks, 7 insanely popular hooks, 4 ways writers fail to hook readers. Now you've got 3 pieces of content.
That's great.
Instead of having an unimpressive hook for 1 single post. Okay, I know that we're tight on time, so I'm going to speed through some of these because you guys have this carousel in there. We're almost done here. In the first line, if the first line is so important, what about the last line, the call to action? So 2 quick ones here, and then I'll explain why I've chosen these. Which CTA is better, 1 or 2? Book a content discovery call 1, get your free content health check. 2, indeed. You're going to see a theme here in a second. Well said. Number 2. Okay. Which CTA is better? Sign up for my marketing newsletter or grow your marketing line? 2. Nailed it. Yeah. Many people still say sign up for my, join my, but the key here is the endowment effect, which basically says or teaches that people who have given possession of something, your and you, this is why I said these words are so powerful, have a greater attachment to it. So give them possession and attach it to a benefit when you're ending your post. Receive your, start your, own your, join your, get your, and then have that benefit. Lead generation plan, new webinar event, marketing insights, content journey, digital strategy. Empower them to own something, and that will help be more influential, right? Think about this for a second. Sign up for my leads with you, but grow your leads with them, the audience you're trying to serve and influence and build trust and authority with. Okay. On this presentation, there are some resources I'm leaving over here for you. There's a bunch of hook formulas, 20 of them, along with some examples of how you can use them in another context. So I have 2 pages of that for you. And then I put together just this word shortener guide. I've made this a LinkedIn post previously, but it's way back there. sometimes we think we have to type content and over explain ourselves. So I just took some of the most common phrases and I just made them shorter for you so you can use it as a reference tool, right? Like, unfortunately, it's just too long. Just say it's stretched, right? It has too much weight on it. It's overloaded. All of those things are really important. You can delete certain words. Like, we like to say things. Where is it? We like to say honestly, or to tell you the truth. You don't have to say those long leading words. It's somewhere on here, right? This is a long list, but take a look at those when you get a chance. It'll be really helpful for you when you're posting.
That is content. Super valuable, Ryan. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, we all just, want to use way too many words. So thank you for that. That's really good.
And then the last point here is that company brands are great, but personal brands are absolutely legendary. The personal brand goes from this to this to this. So here's my company post page. I've not made any posts, and I run a content agency. That's all I do is produce content all day. All of my audience came from me posting original content. So I'm not saying you shouldn't post on your company post. You can, but it shouldn't be your first priority because people buy from people, not from the company. And many people say, well, what about Nike or Adidas and all that? Okay, they're a mass marketing company who spent millions over 50 years, right? So think about that, like billions in marketing, right? So it's much different than just us who are running agencies or maybe at a different stage. If you need help with content in the future, on Friday, I'm launching a dashboard that has all of like the hook formulas, LinkedIn banners, carousel templates, worksheet rewrites. It's in its full-blown system here, so it'll be really helpful for you as you go. And if you'd like to add me on LinkedIn, here is a QR code. You can scan that with your mobile device. I know Paul is also sending around a link as well. So thank you guys for allowing me to kind of speed through this. Again, you have the presentation so you can use it and refer back to it.
Ryan, oh my gosh, this was so valuable. I can even see from some of the comments of people that are having to jet. Thank you so much for this great information. I did tell you yesterday as we were getting ready for this that we do try to wrap by the top of the hour. And man, you just got through a mountain of content and got us done before the top of the hour. So thank you for that. Let's continue the conversation. Let's continue the conversation over at the Demand Gen Jammers group. There's a lot of things. I want to write a little summary post a little bit later on today that just touch on some of the cool things that I was thinking about just based on what you said today, Ryan. But wow, that was super helpful. And I think everybody that listened in today or is going to follow along on the replay is just going to really understand how it's not just the concept that we want to get out there, but it's how we share that concept, the way that we format it, the hooks, the way that we include a call to action, getting all of our people involved in sharing our content, not just on our company page. Those are the things that are going to make a difference. And again, be sure to follow Ryan. He posts great stuff every single day. You will get better at social media by just paying attention to what he's posting. Ryan, thank you so much again for joining us. And for everybody else, appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your week. We won't see you in September, but plan on joining us for our webcast in October when we talk about the AI-enabled CMO. It's going to be a great piece of information and look forward to seeing you there. Thanks, everyone. Take care, everybody.